Hello, legends and super legends. Welcome to Veloharmony subscriber Hangout. I'm doing my best to stay on time. I believe I hit it right at 1 p.m. as scheduled. I see we got people waiting. Mensu, how you doing? Let me maximize this. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to open this and then feel free to throw some chats. Of course, super chats are always appreciated in support of the channel. Our super legend, Christopher Roxbury, is like our guardian angel of the channel now. He's been coming up with these just great questions. And he sent another one. I have it on the other screen. I'm just going to read it. He says, I'm going to continue to give you questions that I think a lot of people will enjoy hearing your input about. He said, you mentioned that you and Paul are doing the Rafa Festive 500. Hey, Freedom Cycles. How you doing? Hi, Rosa. Enjoy hearing your input about it. He said, you mentioned that you and Paul are doing the Rafa Festive 500 again this year. How do you guys prepare for that? And what are some good tips for someone wanting to get themselves prepared for such an event? Excellent, excellent. Because in fact, we're in progress. Those of you who follow Veloharmony on Strava, you may have noticed that recently, probably I started this week, I guess, I went back and made the other stuff public. I usually only make my weekend ride public with the group, but we're preparing for the Rafa Festive 500. So I have made my profile rides public on every ride we've been doing. So preparing for the Rafa Festive 500, since it requires that we ride every day from Christmas Eve to New Year's Eve. That's a week. We've started already last week, the end of November, riding more days, meaning we started riding big miles, and we were actually able last week to exceed the mileage requirement. Hey, Chris, the mileage requirement for the Festive 500. So last week we did 550 kilometers, thereabout. Well, the Festive 500 only requires 500 kilometers. And then we increased our mileage during the week because we've been packing things in normally on the weekends. So we moved it around. So when you're getting ready for an event, you want to try to mirror the requirements of that event. Whatever the event will require of you, get your body used to that. So since the Festive 500 requires us to ride 500 kilometers in 7 days, however you want to do it, you need to start doing it well before that event so that you absorb the miles and you recover. Because the first week I did it, those of you who saw the group ride on Saturday, hey, Robert, Peter, I was talking about my legs, my muscle being sore as I was doing the prologue. That was because we ramped up the mileage. We went up dramatically. I'm not saying that you should go up dramatically. It's good to go up gradually. So let's say you're doing, I'm going to use hours as opposed to miles. If you're only doing 7 hours a week, cycling is a sport that can allow you to do too much because it's not like running where it's very hard on your connective tissue. So be careful about doubling. Don't double. Go up a third, thereabouts. You can do a little more, but pay attention to how you're feeling afterwards, after each ride. If you're just feeling whipped and wiped out, then maybe you're doing too much. You need to feel tired, but not wasted. It's going to be different for everybody. We could go up dramatically in our hours on the bike because we've been training for years consistently. You guys been here. You've seen all the rides we do. Even Robert Tangler said he missed, hey, David, he missed the rides where it would just be Paul and myself and someone else. Robert, you might get your chance this weekend because you know what the weather is supposed to do, and you know how these guys are. They're not going to show up. So I'm already looking at routes that don't go underwater because tonight is supposed to start raining really heavily. And so there are certain roads that get covered like Honia, Egypt, and so forth. So we'll stay on Fish Creek and those kind of roads. So we'll still try to pick those guys up, but I don't think they're going to have much of a turnout. If nobody's there, we're still going to do some kind of ride. Saturday morning, I got it blocked out. I got to do something. If there's no lightning or anything, we're going to be out there. So it might be a different group ride you see this week. It might be what you're talking about. Robert said he learned more when it was just Paul, myself, and another rider. Because we talked about different things each time. And I guess he got to see it on a micro. It's like having a small classroom as opposed to the group ride. So I think that's what he meant. So, yeah. So if you're preparing for any event, make sure that if the event requires climbing and you don't have hills, work hard for that duration into the wind and try to mimic the effort of climbing, because you don't need to have climbs to learn how to climb. Or whatever, if the event requires that one day you ride 4 hours, you need to, at some point before that event, be able to ride at least 3 hours without stopping. That's how you prepare. You don't have to do the exact time, but when you're close enough, then you can just add that extra. Okay. Hey, Cycling T Holmes, how you doing? So that's what I opened with. And Christopher, I just want you to know I really appreciate those ideas and questions or whatever you have. What I'm finding is, Mansoor, okay, no problem, Mansoor, you're fine. I just finished indoor training. I told chatters. You're not late. We started at 1. I changed the time, so you're good. You basically you want to make sure that you're training consistently all the time. You don't have to be training for anything in particular. What Christopher meant is, if you decide your regular training now and some event is coming up, that event may not necessarily meet what you do all the time. So if it asks for more, then you want to ramp up your training to be close to or the same or even more if you have the time, better than that event. So right now we're riding more hours than the Festive 500 will require because of the holiday. Paul has some time off, so we just packed it in and we're able to do that. Then when you go to do the event, it's not a big deal. And we have a plan for the Festive 500. We don't try to pack the miles in just the weekend. So what we do is we spread it out. Our minimum is 80 kilometers a day, because if you do 80 kilometers a day, you can do the 500 kilometers in that week very easily. I think it's 300 miles or 500 kilometers, something like that. So you break it up to where you do at least 80 kilometers a day. And that way you don't have to worry about, oh, I got to make it up. There are people that do it and they fall behind and they have to ride a lot of hours that weekend. They end up making it, but then it's not as much fun, so that's good. So whatever you're preparing for, what I'm finding that is very popular about these indoor sessions is as if to say, I were making a video and the topics meant something to everyone, because it's a challenge making a video because I have topics to talk about, but it may only be of interest to a small portion of subscribers. This live session allows all of you on here to ask questions that might be of interest to not only you, but other people attending or the people who will watch later. So we're covering so much more in these sessions than any video could address. So you have to look at each question being asked as if to say it's a mini video. And that's what I like about it, because some of the things we've covered in here were on the list, and I've just removed them from the list because it's covered in here. And if anybody asks, I'm just going to say, well, hit one of the live sessions. We've dealt with it there. And what I'm going to focus on, the next video in the queue, is going to be on the bike building process, because that is a process. That's something I'm building a lot of reference videos now, and we can talk about things that matter to you guys that choose to attend these sessions. So these sessions are very personal and I think very, very productive. So there's no wondering whether people are interested or not. Ben so said he used the group riding for my indoor training. Yeah, I use them myself. If I'm on an indoor training, I look at things that happen that I may have missed. Cycling T Holmes says, hey, Eldred, have you seen DJ Osmo Pocket Camera that was just released? It is the most insane, tiny, amazing technology being I think I've seen an ad for it. Yeah. They're always releasing stuff because they want your money, So I've seen it. I've seen it on YouTube. They have in front of some of the videos, they run those commercials for it. It is tiny and it does do a lot, but they're always getting things out there. The camera we use, what I like about it is it's an action camera. So I like the wide, what they call fishbowl. You don't get the fishbowl because we're outside. If you were to use those settings indoor, it would look like you're in a fishbowl. That camera thrives for outdoor adventure. So it's specific for what we're doing. It's really, really kind of neat. So let's see who we have here. Vince Oman. Hello, Eldred. What road bike wheel sets do you recommend? I use Zondas. So yes, I would recommend Zondas. I also have the Shimano C35. If you go to I found a real good price, so I put the link on the website because people have been asking the same question you have. You go to the Veloharmony.com, under the web store, you'll see recommended cycling products. Just scroll all the way to the bottom. They're alphabetically arranged wheel sets. Why do I like Zondas? For everyday riding, you don't want to ride very expensive wheels. It's just not practical. You wouldn't wear it. When we were growing up, we had our Sunday clothes. You know what I mean? What you wear to church. And some of you guys, let's say you have clothes that you wear to work, and you have clothes when you're working in the yard and whatever. Same thing. So for everyday training, get some inexpensive wheels. Whether they're carbon or not, I don't care. Because not all carbon wheels are very expensive. But get wheels that can hold up to the pounding. I get the strongest, least expensive wheels to ride every day. So I'm not hassling with spokes out of true and all. I don't have time. My time for cycling is limited because I try to make sure it doesn't take over the whole day every day. So yes, Zondas are great all around. In fact, I just leave them on. I use them in the group rides too. The C35 Shimano stay on the orange bike. They look good on that bike. I have this thing where I have Campagnolo on all the stuff, and on these bikes, like they call Nago, I like to have Campy on there, just even the wheels. If Campy made tires, I'd probably ride them. It's from a purist standpoint, but you don't have to do that. But no, the Zondas are value wheels. I bought them at $320. It might be a little more because every year they improve them. Let's put it that the technology has come a long way. So today's $350 Zondas are better than my $800 Campagnolo Euros I bought in 2006. I still have them. Now they've become my trainer wheels and, just throw around wheels, because the Zondas, even though they're less expensive today, have better technology. They roll better. So it's good to every 5 years or so get something new, because there are big differences being, put in them to where the improvement is there. So yeah, I ride Zondas. Paul has Zondas. I ride them. That's where I ride just all around. All the rides you see that I don't have the orange bike, those are Zondas on there, or my Euros on there. So nothing expensive. Now, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. If you have expensive carbon wheels, use them for your group rides, grand fondos, then hang them up and use the other wheels. Because that way, when you're ready for your events, your wheel will be perfect. You haven't been beating them up. You haven't been wearing your Sunday clothes to work in the yard. That's what I mean. So yeah, let's see here. Vince, what road bike wheels? Oh, that's what I just answered. So we got Mike G. Good afternoon, Master Legend. Enjoy the hangouts. He's got a KZ. Well, good. That's fine. It doesn't matter how many you get. Look at it in terms of time. 20 minutes minimum. That's good. It's better than nothing. That's the way I look at them. Get on the trainer if the weather's challenging. If you're up north, I know you're in the New York area. Don't risk going out and hurting yourself because the roads are challenging or the weather's difficult. Just put it on the trainer, do 30 to 45 minutes. You're good. I mean, that's plenty. The key is do that frequently. 3 days of 30 minutes apiece, you can do a long weekend ride. No worries. And if the weather is challenging on the weekend, split it up if you want to do more. Do an hour in the morning, hour in the evening. We eat every day. Let's do a little something every day. That's going to be a motto of mine. Let's see here. Freedom Cycles. Have you ever used or heard of bone conductive headphones? No, I haven't. Specifically for cycling, to listen to music and podcasts while still being able to hear the traffic. No, I haven't. And I have no desire to put anything in my ear when I'm out there. The reason is not only safety, even if you can still hear traffic. When I'm out there, I want to hear the outdoors. I want to listen to music. I lay in my living room, put my feet up, and I play music. When I'm out there, I want to hear the dogs, the birds, everything, nature. That's why we go out where we go. We get out of town. It's a different thing. I want to experience the outdoors. I don't want music intruding, because I consider that an intrusion. We've had people that would play their music with the Bike Barn group. They would play their music without a headphone because supposedly it's safer. But then you're intruding on everybody else in the group. So yeah, but if that works for you and you need the music, we have a guy that does that. A guy whose phone was ringing in the ride, Mike. He listens to Seal, which is an artist I like. He listens to Seal, has a headset. I think it says One. And so he can still hear us and so forth. For me, it just doesn't work for me. I want to hear my tires. You know how when you get a tailwind, there's not a whole lot of breeze. You can hear the tire on good pavement. Like on last Saturday, we could hear our tires. It's just something I can't replicate at home. I can listen to music anywhere, in the car or whatever. But on the bike, no. I'm natural. But yeah, I mean, it's good that they've got stuff out there that is safe for you to use endless. But I would still maybe put it in one ear and leave your other ear, the traffic side ear, so you can experience the outdoors, man. You know, nothing wrong with that, though. At least you can still hear. Let's see here. Jerome Miserman, good evening. What is the best software to analyze my rides? Didn't have a power meter, only cadence and heart rate monitor. It's kind of hard to say. I can't give you one software now. If you're on Strava or places like that, they have analysis already built in. Even I have a free account on Strava. I have no desire to pay them for anything. I only use set up Strava because of the Rafa Festive 500, which I do every year, and I'm doing again this year. But let's say you're not on Strava or you're not on Garmin Connect. Garmin Connect, if you have a Garmin, that's another free place, and they have analysis there. You don't have to pay for anything. But they also have a software called Golden Cheetah, like the animal cheetah. That's free, and you can get your Garmin files connected to it. It works with any head unit because it takes I think it's .fit is the extension of those files, and it's open source. It's free. Golden Cheetah, 2 words. Just type it in Google and find the latest software. I use it on the Mac, and I think it works on Mac and Windows. I use that personally, and I load my files so I can see how many weeks I've been training, when I need a rest week. And basically what I look at is really the zones I'm in and how long. And really that's something that you don't necessarily need software for, because you can look on your head unit to see how long you've been in your zones if you've entered your zones in there. You know, so yeah, Golden Cheetah, start with that, and we'll probably find other links that will show you other software. But don't feel you have to spend money on analysis. You can do your own analysis by how you feel. If the work has been too much, you're going to feel tired. If you've recovered, you'll be ready to go again. So the analysis is really extra. Don't feel like you have to spend for that. I offer analysis for people who work with power meters and they want to look at peak power and the FTP and how much time they spend there. We offer that as a service because it's really grunt work. You got to look through those files to do that. So yeah, so start with Golden Cheetah if you want to do it on your own. Robert said, what are your top thoughts on midsole cleat position? I haven't tried them, but one of the guys that I hold in high regard as far as fit, Steve Hogg in Australia, he's written some good articles about them. Some people prefer them. I have been my cleat currently is behind the ball of my foot. Those of you who've been here long enough, you know. I don't subscribe to everything what it say KOPS COPS, knee over pedal axle. That doesn't apply to everybody. You've seen some of the videos I talked about. It's a good starting point, and then you go by feel where you feel you want your foot in the shoe. I don't feel you're more efficient if it's midsole. I feel that the widest part of your foot should be where your cleat should be. And the widest part of your foot is the ball of your foot. When you look at the human foot, the ball is wider than where the arch starts to begin. And that's the midfoot area you're talking about. So yeah, the widest area of the foot is where you can put the most force without having your toes go numb. So my cleats sit 1.5 centimeters behind the ball of my foot, the bony protrusion on your big toe. My cleats 1.5 behind that. And the look cleats, fortunately, in my Giro shoes allowed me to be able to move them down enough. Some shoes don't let you go far down enough. So that's another thing you have to be careful about. So if the shoe is limiting you, because Giro places their holes further back than some other shoes out there. And that, so that's so it's a good thing that is out there, but I don't believe it is for everyone. There may be certain people that prefer that. I think it's a personal thing. Alpine Crested Butte. Oh, that sounds like a beautiful place. He said, greetings from Crested Butte. David Steele says, you mentioned about covering the same or more distance in training that you are about to tackle as an event, for example, the 120 Sportif, but would you cover the training with as much intensity? That's a very good question. You can never mirror the effort of an event. It's hard to factor adrenaline, excitement. It's a different kind of feel. Same thing. That's why they say racing is the best training. That's my coach used to tell me that. And all the top guys that write books, they'll tell. That's why today the pros will attend a race early in the year when their event that they're interested in is like maybe July. They'll go to Paris-Nice and other things. And they say, I'm using that for preparation. Okay, so you will never be able to mirror the intensity that day for whatever's going on. You might hook up with a group and you're excited. It's always different. Same thing with the group rides. You don't want to do that. What's important is that you focus on your zones. So if you have your zones derived and you're doing an event that requires you to perform in, say, zone 2, then you want to spend the most time in that zone. So let's say, for example, the event is going to be just long, steady. Then you stay in zone 2. If the event is going to have speed changes where they're going to be intervals, because usually when you go to even a Grand Fondo, it ends up being almost like a road race because you're trying to hang on with a group so you can get camaraderie or whatever. So you always ride a little harder anyway. So what you want to do is to say, okay, I need to at least do my endurance training for that distance, because when it's time to go faster, you will be able to, because your body can already handle the duration. Where people get in trouble is that they go too much harder knowing that they got a longer duration. So you have to make sure that you keep yourself in check. You can't train at the intensity, and you don't need to. If you're going to do less, that's okay. But keep in mind, you still have to pay attention to how you feel during that event and even during training. If you're training for, I mean, you use kilometers. I like to use time. So let's say 120 kilometers will probably take maybe 4 hours, thereabout, I guess. 30 kilometers an hour, you have said 4 hours. So you're training for 4 hours. Then what you can try to do is to say, okay, I'm going to train 3 hours of this training ride in zone 2. Then take that out, the other hour, and take them, split them into 15-minute portions. And so during the first hour, 15 minutes, go a little faster than endurance. Then rest, finish that hour. Then the next hour, take that 15 minutes, go a little fast. That's the way we do it. When we come to the hills, we pound them. And after the hills, you back off. By doing that, your body will be used to changes in pace. Okay? If that's what you intend to do. Now, if you train like that and you go to the event and then you hook up with a group that's changing pace, then you're good. But if you know you only trained like this, don't go to the event and look for a group that's spiking. So you don't have to do the exact distance of the event to be ready for it. What you have to pay attention to is that you do not go too deep. That's the phrase we use. Don't go harder than you've ever done in training in a long event, unless it's at the end of the event. I hope this answers that question, because they're kind of a red herring. Let's see here. There's Stefano Mancini. Here's Stefano. And Jen Lirio, I think. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Okay, so David said, the reason I say that is because I suffer with cramps at the back end of some of these events. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. Cramps are the muscle telling you they're fatigued. You've pushed them too much. For whatever reason, you've either gone too long, longer than you've trained, because you say you train at 100 kilometers, you should be able to go another 20 kilometers. But if you train at 100 kilometers and want to do 160, yeah, you might start cramping. You don't have to go hard, only go hard to cramp. Going too long, too soon can cause you to cramp also. The muscles are tired. They're telling you they need a break. That means drop the intensity. That's what it means. So something happened at the event that day when you cramped. you went faster or harder than you had prepared for too long. You can go hard a little bit, but if you didn't prepare that way and you do it too long or too much of it, then the muscles start cramping. Cramping is a good thing. The body's telling you you're hurting yourself. Back down. This is the problem with people that take steroids or testosterone and all those things. When you take those things, then what happens is you're able to push beyond all these little, what I call limiters. In other words, you don't get the opportunity to find out you're about to hurt yourself. You just hurt yourself. Like weightlifters and bodybuilders that do that stuff, they'll pull tendons and other stuff because they lifted way more weight than they were prepared for. And because they were taking this stuff, it allowed them to push their body beyond, and they end up with injuries. So cramping is a good thing. Cramping says slow down. You did too much. So think about what you did that day versus your training. And that's okay. You just back down the intensity, drink some fluids, and you should be okay. But the problem is people don't back down. It's funny you brought that up. The Saturday ride, I didn't mention it in the narration. That Saturday ride last week that you saw all the attacks, Victor couldn't even ride home. Victor usually rides home with us. Victor hitched a ride with his friend because he told us he was cramping so bad. He could not ride the 16 kilometers that we ride from the start because we live close to each other. So he did not ride home because he was cramping so bad. So he pushed himself beyond, and then the next day admitted to me that he'd been traveling and his training had been off. That's what happens in a group. Sometimes people overdo things or at events. So that's okay. So what you want to do is just make sure you pay attention to the kind of training you did and don't do too much more than that during the event. And always monitor how you feel, because you can start going with a faster group, and if you start tightening up, then back off. Stay within yourself. That's what I was talking about in that group ride. It's hard. It's hard sometimes, but you got to really stay disciplined. Okay, let's see. Stefano says, hey guys, I'm cold up here in Canada. Yeah, well, break out the trainer, man, and spin. And look at the beautiful snow if it's snowing. Yep. Canada is cold this time of year. I would be worried if Canada wasn't cold this time of year. That'd be a problem. The planet would really be upside down. Nicholas Rizzos. Hey, Nicholas, welcome to the forum. Used Frames. Somebody's name is called Used Frames. I thought I'd seen it all. His tag, his avatar name is Used Frames. Isn't that cool? Let's see. He says to Freedom Cycles that he uses the Bone headphones to listen to headphone when I ride my bicycle. Okay, Stefano, would riding with aero wheels be a bad idea if I weigh only 145 pounds and ride a small bike frame? No, but I wouldn't train on aero wheels. Especially if they're expensive. Don't put training miles on them. Use them for your special ride. Just don't go too deep. Because for lighter guys, since you're 145, when it gets real windy, it can kind of blow you around. And then stagger it. Put a smaller one in the front and the bigger one on the back. Like NV has them staggered already. With zips, they don't have them staggered. A lot of people buy the 303 and then they put the 4 on the back with zips. Make sure the smaller one's in front. Makes a big difference in a crosswind. But it does have an impact. So if you go really deep, like the 800 zip, yeah, you need to be a bigger person, but just hang on to the bars. But yeah, they can be a challenge. And somebody's name says, don't believe in your own hype. From the land down under. Now that's a cool name there. Okay. Yeah, Jerome, you're welcome. Aaron Powell. I haven't seen Aaron is one of the original legends of the channel, along with Simon Moses and other guys that come to mind. He's in the UK. He says, hey, Eldred, can you talk about the angle of your foot when you pedal? I have a teammate that always has his toe pointing downwards, and I always seem to pedal more horizontally. It's funny you mentioned that. I mentioned it in the last group ride, Aaron. There's a guy named Rudy. People have been asking about that, so I'll cover that. Everybody pedals differently. I pedal like this. When I go to the bottom of the stroke, my ankle, my heel does this. They call it ankling. I don't think about it. If I had never seen myself on film, I wouldn't know I did that. I just pedal. How I discovered that was, some of you guys probably know, I had a fancy set of rollers, because back in the day we used rollers. I had a fancy set of rollers with electronic resistance control and all of that, and it had a bar across the roller behind the bike that had all the controls on it, where you could have the wire on your handlebar and make it harder and easier and so forth. Well, my heel kept hitting that thing. And that's when I noticed that, oh, I ended up selling it. Some of you guys that were here earlier on the channel may have seen it standing in the room or something. I had it down and I got rid of it. I'm going to buy just a regular roller with no resistance, because that's what we used to warm up on. Helps with your balance. But that's how I noticed it. And I had read Greg LeMond he ankles. That's what they call it, ankling. There are people that ankle like me. There are people that point their toes down. There are people that have their feet flat. Means nothing. That's just what that's what God gave you. That's how you are. It doesn't matter. The effect is the same. It's just a matter of, you still have to scrape at the bottom. So even the people that point their toes down have to scrape, you know. So yeah, no big deal. That's just the way you're made, and everybody's different. No hassle, nothing, not a problem that needs to be fixed. Because somebody was in Cycle Warrior X on the channel commented during the premiere of the group ride, because he saw I was talking about it, and he said, "Do you need to fix?" I said, "There's no problem. I need to be fixed. I can't fix what God made. You know, it's just the way it is. It does not affect your riding. That's just your style. So enjoy it. That's all it is." Let's see here. Hello, Eldred. Greetings from Israel. Marco Antonio Leon. Well, welcome. You're welcome. He said, "Thanks for everything." Steve Peterson. On a day of rest, is it better to spin lightly just a few miles, maybe 10, or take the day completely off? What are your thoughts? Love the channel. I want to get you guys to stop thinking about miles. I want all the legends on here to throw miles away. Let us refer to miles after we've done the work. So let's say you go out and you ride for 45 minutes. Then you say, "Hey, I rode for 45 minutes. What did I cover?" Because you don't control that. If it's windy, don't worry about miles. So let's change your question for rest day. You said spin lightly. Now, today is my rest day. I'm not going to ride at all, and I will explain why. Doesn't mean that your question is off. Monday, I spin because I've had Saturday, Sunday, big miles. And usually on Monday, my legs feel tight. Okay? So, Steve, when your legs feel heavy, spinning is great. Just easy gears, like a massage on a bike. And if you have the time and the money, you can go get a massage. That helps too. Get all the toxins out of it, but it's not required. So yes, if you have the time and you want to spin, it will help the blood flow, will help your muscles loosen up. Then even after that, you can stretch and do whatever. All of that feels good. Yes, by all means do it. But don't make it to where you come from that ride feeling tired. You shouldn't come from the ride feeling tired. You should feel energized and rejuvenated. So whatever, everybody's different. Some people can do, like we did a 4-hour recovery ride. No, we did 2.5 on Thursday. And I think we did a longer one earlier in the week. 2.5 hours yesterday we used for recovery because we had done a lot of miles on Tuesday and Wednesday, kilometers, miles. But basically focus on hours. What I usually like to recommend is don't exceed 90 minutes. If you say it's a recovery, and this is just general for everybody. If you ride a lot, you can do more. The pros in the tour, when they get a rest day, they ride for about 2 hours because they're doing so many miles that 2 hours is nothing. So I'll use 90 minutes as a gauge, but an hour or less is a good guideline. You don't want to finish that feeling tired. You should feel just warmed up, rejuvenated, like you're anxious to do stuff. Now, why did I rest today? I rested today because we did Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I tried not to go more than 3 days without having a physical rest for several reasons. Just to get myself into the pattern of being able to handle a day where I don't ride. Because believe it or not, if you ride a lot like the guys on the tour when they're doing that 3-week tour, you may have heard sometimes they get a rest day, then they have a bad day after the rest day. The body is really weird in that you get it used to riding all the time. It doesn't want to stop. And then you stop, then it forgets. So riders don't know how they're going to feel after a rest day at that level anyway. So they ride on their rest days. That's the reason they ride on their rest day, coupled with the fact that it helps you recover. But they don't go out and do hard efforts and all of that. They just spin. So you want to be enjoying the environment. Zone 1. If you have zones, that's the day for zone 1. Keep your cadence high, keep the gears low, and just get your legs moving around. It really gets your muscles loose. And the next day you'll feel great. So yeah, it's good to ride, but I don't want to put miles on it. I like time. Because if you're pedaling for an hour at, say, 15 kilometers an hour in a 39.28, you're not going to go very far. And if it's windy, you need to stay disciplined and stay in that zone because you won't be going fast. You don't have to go fast to get this effect. So I don't want to put it on miles. Do time. Train to time. Time is more in your control than the miles you cover because in a group, you will go further. You will cover more miles. So I hope this helps. All right. Let's see. He is faster than me too. Okay. Aaron is saying the guy with the flat, he's not faster than you because of how he pedals. He's faster than you because he's probably been riding longer, training harder, whatever. Or maybe just has more natural talent from birth. Because it does make a difference. I try to stress that here. 2 riders can train the same amount. And 1 rider can still be better because of he's born with a bigger heart or just, he's got the talent. That's the way it is. You just get the most out of you. That's what matters. That's why I tell people focus on you. So yeah, doesn't matter. And everybody pedals differently. Long as you're comfortable on the bike where you're fit, that's what matters. Let's see here. Nicholas Rizzo's learning a lot from your bike fit tips, like the common sense approach with the relevant facts and experience, struggling with hand numbness. Nicholas, yeah, a lot of riders, and that's why we set up that remote fit. So what I recommend for you, since you've already done, I only try to encourage people to sign up for the remote fit that are like you, who are able to make adjustments and they've at least tried. Because it's hard to have people do their own fit who are not able to move things around on the bicycle. It takes more time for me to communicate what they need to do and give them action items. So you, Nicholas, would be a good candidate for signing up for our remote fit on the website under the cycling services. And I'm going to modify that because it's been people they sign up, then they don't do the stuff I tell them to do. And 45 days later, they still haven't done the fit. So we're changing that. It's going to be 15 days because it's a 45-minute task. When somebody comes to this studio, less than an hour, they're smiling because they're little changes and they're freaked out like, wow, that's all that you needed to do. Because some of them are pretty close. I still go through the whole thing to make sure, and I record what they come with, and then I put what we change just in case, they want to go back, but they can feel the difference before they leave. So the people who are doing remote fit are taking more of my time. And what I'm going to try to do is get them. That's why people like Nicholas are a good candidate. Sign up for the remote fit and we'll dial you in. And it doesn't take long. If you go on the website on the remote fit, read what I have there. I put enough information about the process. And then I have a form that requests your information from you so that we can get you taken care of. Because yes, the numbness will not go away until we get it resolved. I don't know if you saw the last group ride, this guy who was doing this. And I say he's not waving at anybody. I don't say anything to them because they know about the channel. If they choose not to come here like you guys, I don't go to those rides to bother them. I don't say anything. If they don't come to me with a problem during the ride, I don't say anything to them because we're all big boys. He knows I do fit. So he's sitting there doing this. He sees us not shake. My hands don't get numb. And so you think he would at least see and say, hey, how come my hands are getting numb? Because that's painful. You know how your hand goes to sleep. That means his weight is on his hands. That means his saddle's off or the cleats are off or the bars are not set. It can be so. That's why I look at the whole fit. There's so many riders with numbness. Don't feel alone. There's a bunch of riders. We get them a lot on the remote fit stuff. Let's see here. Don't believe in your own height. What's your take on short riders going from 170 millimeter crankset to a shorter one like 165? Why are you doing that? I don't know why you need to do that. That's just a lot of expense. Are you having a problem with the 170s? I've tried different cranks simply because they came on the bikes when I raced. When we would do a time trial, the mechanic would put 180 on there. I hated the 180s. They just seem to slow me down. I ride 175s now. My inseam is about what, 87 centimeters, I believe. Not very unusual. I mean, I'm 6'2". My inseam kind of short. My length is in my torso and my arms. When I played basketball, I had what they call length. But yeah, unless you're trying to solve a problem, I wouldn't just be changing things. That's the thing. It's a red herring. You got to have something you're trying to fix so you know when to stop. If you're not having an issue, some of those cranks, I don't even know, they didn't make 160. I don't know if they're custom or not, if you go that low. Because it's an expense, and then you're stuck with the 170 that you had. I don't feel that is that big a deal. The biggest thing is that each time you go down, you're going to have to adjust your saddle height because the circle of pedaling will change. Just remember that. So no, I don't think it's going to hurt your knees if you pedal with a longer crank arm because your body will adapt. I've ridden the 172.5. I've ridden the 180s and the 175. I like the 175 personally. It just seems to work. I pedal it just as fast as anything. So it's not going to hurt your knees because your body will adjust. Just make sure you adjust your saddle position, because if you don't, then yes, it will bother your knees. Hey, Paul. Paul joined us. Paulie Lunga. The Russian grinder. Victor. Yeah, Victor is a Russian. Victor is a real cool guy. He believes in that style of riding, you know. And let's see, T. Sluggerose, I was in Houston for Thanksgiving, thought about you. Well, that's nice to know. Yeah, it was nice here. We had great weather. We're getting rain tonight, so we don't know how the roads. That's why I was telling Robert Tangler that he may get his wish. Well, he'll see only Paul and I riding, because if it's safe, we're going to be out there. I want to get the Ks in and I'm getting ready for the Festive 500. We're supposed to get a lot of rain. There's supposed to be some flooding in the low-lying areas. So we'll just stay on the high roads when we go out. So we already have in fact, it rained on us on Thursday's ride a little bit. And so we just left the mud guards on our bike. So the bike's ready for the rain. The rain does not faze me. I smile when it rains. I love it. It's great. You know, here we go. Let's see. Daniel Steele. Oh, Daniel, your record. Daniel's thanking me for my reply. Good. Sometimes it's hard to answer these questions, guy. I know a lot about cycling, and I continue to read and educate myself. But the key, when I was in school, we had a brilliant chemistry teacher, but he couldn't teach. He knew stuff. He just didn't know how to teach other people. So it's hard. You have to speak at the level where you have to find different ways. That's why I use a lot of examples. You have to find a way to get a connection with the person you're giving the information, and not try to impress them with what you know, because that means nothing. If you really know something, you should be able to explain it to anybody. You know, that's kind of a thing that I strive for. So it's good when people say thanks. That means they got it. Let's see here. I've been thinking about getting some rollers. This is Jeff. Is there anything in particular that I should be looking for when shopping around? Other than price, no, they're all pretty good. As I explained earlier, I had fancy rollers I paid $900 and something for. Fortunately, I got out of it without a loss because it's very unique. There's some coming, I don't remember the name, but they're smart rollers per se. They have resistance built in and so forth and so on. And I got them, but because of that bar and my ankling, my foot used to hit it. So that's why I sold it. So no, you just want something in a budget that works for you. They're all pretty good. I like it because it's a nice change. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm going to get rid of my indoor trainer. The indoor trainer is invaluable when you're setting position or checking how your bars feel. You know, you can't do that on rollers when you want to see, okay, did I lower the stem enough and whatever. That's invaluable. So it doesn't go away. The rollers are great for like a recovery ride where you're not going to kill yourself, but you just want to spin and loosen up and feel like you're outside where the bike gets to glide. That's what the rollers give you that the indoor trainer can't give you, you know? So just get something reasonably priced, middle of the way. I mean, if I'll make a note and just do some research and stick it on the site, because there might be other people that will ask. I will put it on the web store recommendation on veloharmony.com, recommended products. I'll put some rollers out there from good brands, so you're not, it's not a stab in the dark. They're great. They're great to have. It's a nice change, so you don't lose the ability to work on your handling. So you can be indoors working on your handling. What I do caution people, if you're new, put it in a doorway. In a doorway, you've got this panel, that panel, to help you until you get your balance. Because yes, I've fallen from rollers. It's funny. My wife laughed at me. It's funny to fall in the house on your bicycle. But even though it's funny, you can hurt yourself. So yeah, so if you're new at it, make sure you got out of the doorway or get a stool that's high enough. That's a good way to get started. And then once you get going, it's okay. But still keep that stool to dismount and so forth. Eventually, you won't need the stool. I can get on the rollers, just clip in and go and just start going. But that takes time to practice that. And the cool thing about that is you'll be working on bike handling and everything with the rollers. That's the biggest difference. You probably see some of the pros, but even on track events, they're using rollers to warm up. But if you notice, they're right by some kind of fence on the infield. If it's at a velodrome, they're by a fence on the infield. That's how they mount and dismount, because they usually pack the rollers in a row. So yeah, just make sure where you place it, you got something to hang on to if something happens, especially if you're new. They're great to have. All right, let's see here. Chris Rocks. I'm going to read this for everybody. Paul Ilonga is a moderator on the channel. So what happens, his name is in blue, and it has a tool, almost like a spanner, next to his name. And Chris says, Paul, having your name highlighted in blue as a moderator means we need to see you at this house during the live feed once in a while. Yeah, Chris is just shooting the breeze. He's putting pressure on Paul. They're just messing around. But that was funny. I thought I would just read that. But Paul's been here. He's talking about Paul being here when I do the feed. It's just a matter of timing. We'll have to plan it. We hook up the ride, so it's not a problem. It's just that after we've ridden for hours, we both got other things to do, and then we're squeezing this in. So yeah, we'll have to sort it out. Friday might be a good time for Paul to be here because we're both off. Yeah, and even during the normal times, Paul's off on Friday as well. Let's see here. Jerome Miserman said, when are you coming to the Netherlands? Then I want a bike fit from you. I don't have any plans to come to the Netherlands. It's probably cold there right now. Why would I? People are coming where I am this time of year. That's like the birds going north in the winter. Your timing's off. Jerome, you might want to look at the remote fit. We'll get you taken care of. We do everything by video, and then we do a real live thing at the end if you need it. So most people don't. That is so comprehensive for people who can make adjustments and understand. And I have some premium videos that nail things deeper, so it makes my life easier. So yeah, we've got that thing streamlined. We've had it a little over a year now since the first people asked for it on this channel. People got tired of going to get bike fits locally and still having it not work. And they were like, we want you to do it. So we set up that remote thing, even though it does involve more of my time, but we did it, and it's been good, been streamlining it. I'm very happy with it. Let's see here. Nicholas Razos. Thank you. I'll sign up for the remote. Okay, see, Nicholas going to sign up for the remote fit, Jerome. He's going to do that. Nicholas is he's in Sweden. Yeah, Nicholas, we can get you done. If you're able to do adjustment, Nicholas, one of these guys, Jerome, that tried the videos online and just can't seem to get it there. And so he's still having hand numbness and stuff like that. So basically you get the videotape yourself from the side. When you go there, all the details are there that explains what we're asking you for. Once you sign up, we give you your own drive on Google for you to load whatever videos, however long. And you tell me in the video if you want, or you send an email as to what issues you're having. I can look at you and see what's going on with you. That's why I want it from the side, because that's where you really see what's going on with your legs and everything. And then when you record it, you tell me, oh, when I do this, or for 30 minutes, you basically were having a conversation in the video, and I watch it, and then I give you homework. I give you action items to do, because we're not just guessing. You're going to also submit all your measurements, and I'm going to calculate your saddle height and everything. And because the key is that you measure your inseam correctly. So we start with a good number. That's the key. And then we start tweaking. Your 4/2 is the main one we'll tweak, because the saddle height is pretty easy to get to. But yeah, we get you there. And I tell you what direction to go based on what issues I see or what you've told me, what direction to go with the saddle. We do the saddle first, then we do the cockpit. And then we look at whether you got the right length of stem and the drop. So it's very comprehensive. It's become, in fact, it's being requested more than the local fit, because even some people that are not far away, much rather, it's more flexible. You work on your own time. I just tell you what to do. And then you've got a period of time to get it done. I like for people to get it done quickly. So I'm trying to squeeze it down to a couple of weeks, because it's like a 45-minute task. If you're here in the studio in less than an hour, I have you done. So I don't want people to extend it too long, because people go on vacations. They sign up for the fit, then go on vacation. And I'm like, come on, man, we got to get this done. So yeah, that's the way it is. So that's good. Go ahead and sign up. We'll get you taken care of. I believe there is, I don't know if there's a sale or something. What's his name? Let me let him know. Let me check. I'm not sure if those guys loaded that thing. I was working on this new discount software for the channel once we started this, and they should have a sale. So if they don't, when you sign up, Nicholas, use repeat customer, one word, and you should get a minimum of 10%. I will check in addition to see what other discounts they've been able to get out there. Just do that, repeat customer, you get a discount. And the other discounts we're working on, if they get it there, you should still be able to use that in conjunction with that. That will at least bring the price down a little bit for you. We've got a new software. We're rolling out some discounts on packages. If you buy this and you buy that, and they were having trouble. I've been working with the developers to get that solved. I had to give them access to the site, and they didn't even know how to log in. I'm like, come on, guys. How are you going to help me if you can't log in? All right, let's see here. Are you riding tomorrow morning? This is, yes. Yeah, it is supposed to rain tomorrow. Our plan is to ride, and I mentioned that earlier. And because Robert had mentioned on a comment on Strava, Robert Tengler said he really liked when Paul, myself, and another rider would ride because he learned more. And I told him that he might get his wish, because tomorrow, once it rains around him, most of these guys don't want to come ride. And the ironic thing about it is the people who don't ride when it rains or it's cold are the ones who want to do attacks on a sunny day. And you know what happened to one of them last week? So yes, we'll be riding in the morning. We have the mud guards already on the bike because it rained on Thursday. I just left them on mine. So we're going to be riding. We'll plan a route that avoids the low roads, because we will have there's a lot, I think 3 inches in certain areas, and that's a lot. It just goes over the road in certain areas. The creeks fill up. So let's see. I'm going to scroll through here. Jeff said, thanks. You're welcome, Jeff. Don't believe in your own hype says, thanks so much for the reply. The reason I asked was because my current bike fitter suggested, as in still rocking on my bike despite heaps of adjustment. I also have shims under the cleat for stability purpose. If you're rocking, that tells me the saddle's a little high. Rocking means the body is trying to reach the bottom of the stroke. And the saddle, it's like you have something suspended here and you want the reach. So it has to roll to reach. You shouldn't have to roll. That saddle needs to come down a little bit so that he needs to look at the inseam again. And so that's why I think that we can fix you. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of guys. Whether you have shims in your shoes or not, what's going to bring it out is that when the saddle is right, your body should not be moving like this, your back. Because it moves so you can reach them. Well, that's friction. Then saddle sores kick in. And all the little extra aches you get from that movement. You should be solid. I don't think it's been I don't think I've ever seen a European professional cyclist that rocks. It's like they get that. I guess when you ride so much to get to that level, you get rid of the rocking because it's painful. You have a lot of there's hairs on your skin that rubbing irritates it. That's some of the stuff that causes saddle sores. The follicles get infected with all that rubbing. So no, you shouldn't be rocking. You're losing power when you can't get all the way down there to pull back. That's what's happening with the rocking. The body has a way of trying to compensate. Your body wants to pull back. And since the saddle's too high, it's like, this thing way up here, I'm going to lean over to try to finish the stroke. So no, we'll get you taken care of. Let's see here. And that's the thing. Not all fitters are created equal. I said that when I started the channel. There's no fit school. There's no certification. So everybody just said, oh, you go to the bike shop. Oh, we do fits. Who's this guy? What has he done? Who has he fitted? Nobody knows. But he works at the bike shop. Yeah, so it's kind of like, okay, it's a crapshoot there. Let's see. So Chris says to us, good luck this weekend, Paul. Lots of rain heading your way. Elders say you guys are riding. You guys are unstoppable, Team Veloharmony. Yeah, we're unstoppable in certain regard. We're not crazy. We're monitoring this weather. I've been listening to the radios. I look at my phone all day. I've been running errands this morning. We monitor it, and that's the reason why I said we're going to take higher routes. There are many routes that don't flood where we go. Honia, Egypt is not one of them. So we're not going to, that's our favorite road. We're not going to use that because it floods. In fact, they've got those things that come across the road. And they've got an extended section. When Paul and I rode on it earlier, I think it was this week, I showed him where the arms were. There were miles apart in either direction. In other words, there's a big chunk of the road that gets covered with water. So one arm was here when he headed north, and the other arm on the other side of the road was maybe 6 kilometers down. That's how much of an area they try to close. And these crazy folks that live here, because the arm does not cover the entire road, it only covers this lane in that direction, they drive around those arms. And the reason they do them that way is because if someone has a home, say 100 yards beyond the arm, it might not be underwater at their driveway. So they can drive around it and get to their home. But it's not for people who want to go miles or kilometers down the road, and they still take chances. And we have a lot of deaths in cars. Okay, people go, we have these underpasses, where they build the freeways, all concrete, and they have the road going underneath, and they have a 15-foot flood gauge marked. They don't block those. I don't know why. Paul and I was talking about it when he gave me a ride earlier in the week, and it was like, why don't they block those? Because people have died at night. We even lost a police officer during Harvey. You can't see the water when the road dips under the freeway, the service road, and they just drive into like 10 feet of water. And that thing's moving so that you lose your bearings. The car probably gets flipped over. We've lost a lot of people like that. So it's such a big deal around here. They talk about it. They got this phrase, turn around, don't drown, like they're a bunch of 2-year-olds. You're not driving a boat. Don't take it into water. But, those situations like for the underpass, they really need to just shut it down. The police, they try. They go out there and take manual barricades when they see the water and they put them out. And believe it or not, some people still try, So, yeah, we're not going to do anything crazy. I mean, we know the area enough. We know where the flooding is. Where we live it's not an issue for the kind of rain we're getting, but there are certain areas out there. So, yeah, we'll be aware. You're not going to see me riding a bicycle in water. Not going to happen. So, no, we're going to be very careful out there. Let's see. Don't believe in your own hype. He said, what I mean, rocking on my bike, rocking from side to side, even though I'm stable, but not as stable as other riders I see in the park. Other riders I see when I ride. Yeah, that means you're not there yet. You shouldn't be rocking. Any rocking, you're losing power, and then you're going to have saddle sores because there's friction. You shouldn't be rocking. Your body should be stable. Your legs should move. Your body's the fulcrum. That saddle should have you stable and your legs just move. Any body movement, no. It's inefficient. You're not dialed in. Jerome said, I have seen all your fitting movies and it was super helpful. When I have the budget, I will do the remote. Thanks for all the... You're welcome. Let's see. What tools I need if I opt for your remote fit later down the track? You don't need any tools other than your Allen wrenches to adjust your saddle. But what do you call this? A straight edge with a bubble would be helpful because it will really identify whether your saddle is level or not. So get one of those 1 foot plumber's rule, I call them, with a bubble, because you use that to really measure your saddle height, especially when you do it by yourself, to measure your inseam as well. When you put the rule under you to make sure it's level when you do the measurement, that's not tilted one way or the other. So that's about the only thing. I think every cyclist can use that. Just a 1 foot ruler with a bubble. Get that from any hardware store. Let's see. So Juan Mustache. He says his IT band started aching lately after long, hard rides. I never had this issue before. What's your take on this? You may not have experienced it. Maybe you're just doing more miles now and you have an existing situation. And a lot of times, like some of the guys that have numb hands, they say, oh, it starts getting numb after 40 minutes or after 45 minutes. So maybe you just did more mileage than you have in the past, and the problem's been there, but you had not ridden long enough to really get to feel the symptoms. So you still need to visit what may be causing your IT band. That it relates to your relationship with that machine, meaning your fit, how you look on that bike. So unless I can see you on video, like when we do the remote fit stuff, it's hard for me to give you any kind of advice. But I would err on the side of saying, look at your fit. You shouldn't have any pain when you ride, after you ride with the IT band. Your muscles should be sore, not ligaments and other things like that. So that tells me something's off with your setup. Your cleat could be off, your saddle, but I don't know. That's a stab in the dark since I haven't seen you ride. So you've just explained what problem I'm having. So don't believe in your hype says, I've just explained what problems he's having. So I guess I was answering out of someone's question. That's why I like this forum. That's why it seems to be, it's going to stick, because I like that. That's what I mentioned earlier. So I answered a question that seemed to benefit him as well. He says, yes, I do get frictions and saddle sores, and started using Body Glide product when doing long rides. Thanks so much again. Yeah, you shouldn't have to do that. You need to get your fit done. I don't use, I've done a video about it. I have chamois cream. I don't use it. Now, it doesn't mean that the reason I have it is tomorrow's a wet ride, I will use it if it's going to be wet. Because what happens when your skin gets wet, it kind of gets a little clammy and cold, and you can have more susceptibility to irritation and chafing. So I use chamois cream when it's wet, but you shouldn't have to use that on a regular basis, because that's like you're trying to make up for an ill-fitting saddle or bike. So yes, you definitely need to look at that, because besides the saddle sores, you're cheating yourself. When it's not optimal, you're not getting out all the power in your body. You're not getting it out on the road. That's what that is. Long fam. Greetings from the land down under. Wow, we have a lot of Australians here. Let's see. I guess noon is a good time for the boys down under. Welcome, Long fam. Nicholas Rezos. Looking forward to the remote Yabba Dabba Do after Christmas. I don't know what that is. Is that a remote fit? He said you remote Yabba Dabba Do. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's what he means. The land down under. The boys from Australia. Yeah, I think it's cool that we do this. Friday early in the day is better for me. And then I think Wednesday, I could do it early in the day, but I figure we could do Wednesday a little later and then do this early in the day. So now we've got a lot of Australians here today. The later ones, like when we do the group ride, we're just focused on watching the group ride. So that's not really a live session per se, the premiere. But I think having those two staggered times will be able to accommodate more people and kind of get people on here. if something's off with the bike, your body will not tell you 5 minutes into it, or if you're just riding around the neighborhood. When you'll find out is when you start to do more. You start to go out longer rides, and then it starts aching. So don't ignore it and think, oh, because I'm doing more, that's why. Well, in a way, but what it's saying is it's simply is magnified now. Like you've had this problem, but the body tolerated it, because the body will cheat. If your foot's not right on the right side, you put more weight on this hand to move that foot around or whatever. Well, if you're only riding for 30 minutes, you may not do it long enough to cut off the circulation. And then, and so some people wonder, well, why is it only my left hand? Because you only have the problem on the right side. There's a tendency to just do the opposite. It's like a balance kind of thing. You use that hand to unload the uncomfortable area. So the gentleman who talked about using something for the glide, whatever, even though you're using the glide, the fact that your saddle's not optimal, you're still unloading that discomfort somewhere. And what it means is you're not getting the most out of your body or the most speed forward. So that's the thing. You're not as relaxed on the bike as you could be. And then that means your heart rate is a little higher than it should be. Because anytime you're clenching or doing stuff like that, that's energy. That means your heart got to pump more blood because you're doing something, as opposed to just having your hands, like I showed you guys, my hands just draped over. I don't do anything up here unless I'm out of the saddle. I just let it rest. So it'll keep your heart rate stable, and you just use that energy to your legs. So fit is really critical in that manner. And that's why the people who are fitted can do day after day of long rides with no issues, no major issues here. So those of you who came later, Chris had sent me a message on Patreon. Those of you who don't know Chris, he's one of our super legends. Those are the guys who keep the lights on around here. So he said that he's going to be sending questions. I thought that was really cool. So his question was about how do you prepare for like the Rafa Festive 500? And so what I did at the beginning was just mention that we've already started covering the kilometers required. We started that last week in preparation for that. And you don't have to do exactly for that event. You can do a little less, but we went ahead and did more because we had the time. And then this week too, we're going to exceed that. That's another reason I want to ride. I want to ride tomorrow. So when it started talking about, people shouldn't go out tonight, they're talking about drivers, because this is when people die in the Houston area from flooding. They're driving at night and you can't see the water on those underpasses. We have several areas in town, Post Oak, which is one of our busy areas, West Park, where they have overpasses and they have frontage roads that dip almost below sea level. They just dip and then they come up. So they trap a lot of water in there. We've lost a lot of people. So they announced today that people shouldn't be out and about in their cars tonight. This is not about you walking or whatever. There's no pedestrian that have walked into the water. They're telling these guys in their cars. Because this thing, when people are in these cars, they think they're invincible. They're telling them, don't go out tonight if you don't have to. We expect a lot of rain. Because even the police can't get to you. So it's kind of like they're already making the announcement for people to stay off the roads. Because at night you can't see the water to make a decision whether you can proceed or not. And by the time they hit the water, it's too late. They don't even know. So it's sad. It's just sad that happens. I don't know why they still do not block those feeder roads, that we talked about it. Paul and I chatted about it. I don't know why. They need to just shut it down. You think it's going to rain, close it so we can keep these guys alive. USMC 5900 says, fit versus comfort, or are they the same thing? Of course. When your bike fits you, you're very comfortable. Yeah. They're the same thing. And when you're comfortable, you can go fast. It's hard to go fast when you're not comfortable, because you try to go fast, then you got to shift that area that's hurting. Then the speed drops. Then you can't do it long because you got to keep moving around to try to find a comfortable area. We joke about it because people who don't have a good fit It might take them an hour to find a good spot on the saddle they like. And after that, they don't want to get up. They don't want to stop for anything because they finally found a spot. So they don't want to get up. Oh, even if the road's bad, they'll ride seated. So yeah, it's a big deal. But most people discard it. You know, I mentioned that. I mentioned that to. I don't know if it was Kurt or Ken. I probably had to be Kurt because the other shop, I'm not that close to him. The shops feel like when they mention fit, customers feel like it's an upsell. And so a lot of them have stopped, you know, saying that you need to get fitted. They just stop doing that. But, in defense of the customers, the best fitters are not at the shops. So it's kind of like, So yes, they're the same thing. Let me finish his sentence here, what he said. Or does the body learn to get comfortable once fitted properly to the bike? There's no learning. If you're fitted properly, I tell people in my studio, they're happy instantly. There's no getting used to. And when you fit it properly, every time you get up, say you stand the pedal and you sit out, you're there. There is no looking for the spot. You're there. So no, there's no getting used to. You should be comfortable instantly. People have. I know what you're driving at. I heard a lot of people here and other places say, "Oh, I had a fit, and he said I needed to ride into it." No, that's a old wives' tale. That's not a good fitter. You shouldn't have to ride into anything. You should be comfortable in that studio before you leave. And before you sign up for a fitter, you need to make sure you tell them, I expect to be comfortable while I'm there. Especially if you're physically there. The remote fits are more of a challenge because I can't verify you measured your inseam exactly. I can give you precise instructions and hope that you do it right. And that's why we give 2 weeks for people to get it done. It used to be a month. I cut it down to 2 weeks because it's just people were not doing it. It's sign up for the fit and go do all the stuff, and I don't hear from them. And then it just drags on. It doesn't take that long. So no, you should be comfortable instantly. There's no getting used to it. All my bikes fit me the same, even though they're all different dimensions, different top tubes, whatever. You accommodate them with the proper stem length, but it's the same point in space. Your body doesn't change. We get your body to fit the bike. The bike is symmetrical. You're not. Let's see here. So Chris wants to know, how do they do saddle fit at a studio? How do you know you have the perfect saddle? That's a great question. A lot of people that come to do a fit, I can watch them. If I'm watching them, I can tell if the saddle, when they're pedaling, because you watch how they're pedaling. That's how you do it at a studio. They sit in and you stand back and you watch them. Even on the remote fit, that's why I have them film from the side on the remote fit. When they're pedaling, if that saddle doesn't suit them, you will see gaps as the foot hits the bottom of the stroke. You will see gaps between their underside and the saddle body. Because once you set the saddle correctly and it suits their anatomy, there should be no bouncing, meaning the body's not trying to move out of place. It should just be, just brace. Now, many saddles can be fitted to the same person, but you kind of have to do trial and error if you don't have a saddle that you think you're comfortable on, and it can be expensive. So a lot of times we have people do trial. A lot of stores will have, bike shops will have what they call loaner saddles. Some manufacturers give them, and in fact, some of the manufacturers will make a saddle that's multicolored with the word loaner literally stitched into the saddle as opposed to the brand, so that shop does not try to sell it to anybody. It's just for loaners. So you get to put it on your bike and try to see if that fit meets you. But most riders just get fortunately buy a saddle and they think it's okay and I'm going to stay with it. Now, as they ride longer, they may try other saddles. There's a guy on here that's trying the Rafa saddle. He loves it and so forth. But generally, the shapes of the saddles, they're not that drastically different because the body, you're sitting on round bones. People think your cheeks you don't sit on that. You sit on the bottom of your hip bone. And I use that picture on my website just to show that. So that's why most saddles have a little dip. The S&P is a little more pronounced in that dip. What that dip is for is that when the human body is sitting, when the hip bone is here, since it's like a circle like that, when you get in the drops, it rolls, like you see my finger. It rolls forward. So the front of that saddle is like this to anchor you. If you don't have that just a little cavity, some saddles have more, some saddles are flat, like the Physique Arione. Like people who are very flexible don't need that much of a roll. I've ridden the Physique. I prefer the S&P to the Physique. It just seems more stable for my undersides when I'm on the saddle. But the bottom line is that if you're uncomfortable with where that saddle touches you, then you try a different brand. But you have to stay within the same kind of styling, because they got some saddles that are dead flat that may not work for you. But once you find, we can set your saddle height and everything, and you just don't like the way that feels against you, then we try a different brand. That's kind of like, trial and error. You just got to go through the different styles of saddle. But what I try to do is to see how flexible a person is, and then I recommend a saddle. The reason I always recommend the dynamic is because they've engineered it to fit more than 95% of people out there with different hip sizes, whether it's small, medium, large. S&P has it on this site, because it's your hip bone width that makes the difference. I've tried the specialized, I think it was ramen saddle. It was okay, but it wasn't as comfortable for me. The Physique was okay, but I didn't feel the stability when I was in the drops. And then when I tried the S&P, I was like, it reminded me of the old Flight Italia saddles that they used to make when I used to race. That's what I rode. Those were very light. They had minimal padding, but they didn't last long because they were flexible. They moved too much, so it ended up breaking. But they were good saddles. They were called Flight. They were really cool looking, long nose. Looked like the Concorde or whatever. So there's a style of saddle that works for certain riders. And so if you're not very flexible, like you're a stockier kind of rider, you don't need the super extra dip. You tend to use a flatter saddle. Physique has stuff where they describe people like animals, where if you're a snake, they say try this, or and that's what they're doing there. So it's not an exact science. It's strictly by feel. And that's why I made a video a while back talking about fit is what you feel. A fitter that will not solicit feedback from you is not doing his job right, because he can't feel for you. Let's see here. I have 3 bikes. This is Nicholas Rezos. I have 3 bikes. One I bought in Austin 3 years ago. USPS Trek from 2000. Eddie Merckx, yeah. And a Colnago from 92. Love all my bikes, but the one I like the most is a Colnago. So why do you like the Colnago the most? I guess it's steel. 1992, that's the old style. My Colnago is a replica, so it might as well be called a poser. It has the lighter steel tubes. They're called Master X Light, and they just painted it to look like the bike that Giuseppe Cerrone rode to the World Championship in 1982, I believe. He won. I think Le Mans was second. Then Le Mans won in 83. Giuseppe Cerrone. I think he rode for the SCIC team as well before he went to the team that he was with when he won. But yeah, I like the Colnago myself. I bought mine with a steel fork, even though they offered a carbon fork. I got one with a steel. The steel fork is heavier, but I wanted just the purest look. It's very comfortable. It soaks up everything. That's what I trained on this week with Paul, and then I rode the other steel, the blue steel, on Thursday. But the biggest thing is that I would not use the Colnago to do a mountain time trial right now with all the lighter stuff. Like my titanium is much lighter, probably like maybe 2 kilos lighter, which is significant. But yeah, but just for all around riding, road racing, whatever, the Colnago, yeah, easy on the body. I don't know what it is about this, the dampening properties of steel, but titanium comes close. It does have its own feel. Titanium is completely different. Somebody asked on the channel in the comments, stiffness wise, does titanium feel like carbon? I replied to, and I just said titanium is like nothing out there. The titanium is different. Steel is different. Carbon can be made to feel like other things, because I guess if you're comparing it in that manner, but I just haven't felt the same when I owned a carbon frame. It didn't feel like any of my metal frames, and I'm sure there's some of them out there that do, but it would be expensive to try each one that are out there. I think personally, for me, if I were to get a carbon bike, I would get the lightest possible one and only use it for events that were hilly. That's it. Then I hang it up because it's like chicken egg. And I would ride my steel bikes all the time so I don't break my carbon frame. That's how I would treat it. It's like the baby. So they're not bad. I mean, they're great. But the way these guys use carbons here, at every ride, they just bring out the Cervelo. Those are expensive bikes. We see them all the time. Somebody made the comment, do they give Cervelos for free in Texas? Because of that. We're doing the premiere this week. It's like everybody has a Cervelo. I'm like, come on. In fact, there's so many Cervelos. My brother owns a Cervelo, Paul. He refused to bring his Cervelo out for weeks. And it's like, man, they're good bikes, but they're very delicate. I wouldn't beat them up like that. But I mean, think about it. Nowadays, they're riding carbon frames and cyclocross and all that. So I guess they can't be that delicate. I guess, but those guys are racing. They're not paying for them. If I spend my money on it, I would be like a baby. I don't abuse any of my bikes, but you guys know what I mean. I wouldn't use it. I would treat the carbon bike as event bikes. And then, ride the metal bikes, because the metal bikes bend. They don't break. That's my only concern. All right, let's see here. I was looking at the clock over there because sometimes I run over. Nicholas Rezos, I wish I knew the importance about bike size. Oh, okay. It sounds like Nicholas already bought a bike. And yeah, it's important. It's recommended that you get a bike fit or sizing done before you spend your money, because you can't just walk into the bike shop hoping that person that works there is really good on sizing. That's hit or miss. It's kind of like you're going to buy shoes. You need to know what size you wear. But even, with shoes it's different, because they'll put your foot in that thing. At least in the US they do. They put your foot in that thing and then they measure it. But still, with shoe, you get to put your foot in it. A bike at the bike shop, you don't really get a chance to really test it. That's the thing. So yeah. Amal Abdul Khalik. At a higher cadence, I start to bounce up and down on the seat. Welcome to the club. We've all been there. What training can I do to help my brain adjust to pedaling a high cadence while seated? I'm not laughing at you. I actually laughed in admiration, because you've got it right. It is your brain. It's your they call it neuromuscular pathway. Your brain working with your muscles. Let's assume everything's great with your fit, because it does start there. If your fit's off, you will never be able to spin smoothly because you're uncomfortable. People with bad fits don't like to spin high cadences, because all riding is spinning. Spinning is this, but we equate it with high cadences. And I like to correct that. Spinning is doing the stroke correctly at any cadence. That's spinning. But spinning high cadence requires that you be solid here so your legs can really fly. That prevents you from bouncing. But you can be solid here. And if you have not hit 115, 120 before, as you start to get there, your body starts rocking because your body does not know. So you need to do intervals, what we call speed intervals, to where you get close to where you normally bounce, back off to where the bouncing stops and stay there, and then push that ceiling each time you do the next interval. And over time, your body will adapt. You have to train your cadence. And that's what that is. And it's very, very hard on your aerobic system, and it burns more calories. So don't try to do it in a group ride. Do it solo first. So you adapt, because you could get out of breath. You might get dropped if you don't recover, and the group is still going. So Chris says, if you have flat feet, do you leave the insoles in your shoe flat or add artificial arches? Good question. It depends on the shoe style that you buy. I have flat feet, but I bought Giro, and the Giro shoes are for people with flat feet. So I just use it out of the box without their special. They've got like their fit geometry thing. They send additional soles with different insoles that you can add for people who have arches. They're accommodating them because they make them for us with flat feet. So I just use them out of the box with the standard insole they have in there. I don't need the other stuff. On the other side, like CDs, I had to have this custom footbed made. I used to race with CD shoes, and I needed a custom footbed because my feet are flat. So what they did was they added an arch to the footbed. So my feet was in the flat part on top, and it just filled the gap in the shoe. So the shoe controls what you need to do. So you need to shop for shoes that suit your feet. They call it the last. The last is the bottom of the shoe. The style of the last, if it doesn't conform to your foot, then you need a custom footbed, or you need different things to accommodate. You know, they sell them, like Specialized has the body geometry stuff they have. So yeah, the Specialized shoes never work for me. The nose is always small. I need more room at the front. The Giro have good toe box, a lot of room, and then it's flat. That's why I switched to the Giro shoes and loved it. Giro and Shimano and Lake, I wear with no problems. So, you know, Karnak was okay, but it was a heavy shoe. I never liked Karnak that much. But those are the three that I've played with over the years that work great out of the box. So find a shoe that's designed. If you have hard arches, find a shoe for that. If you have flat feet, find a shoe for that. There's no point in you going to buy a shoe for people with hard arches and try to accommodate it. I had to do that because my team gave me the shoe, and I told them I need. So it didn't cost me any money. They did the footbed. Since it was a team issue shoe, that's what I used. But when I was spending my own money, I bought Shimano shoes because I always rode Shimano pedal systems, standard, because they were wider. Good question there. So Joe says, hey, Eldred, post-hip replacement riding is coming along. On trainer during endurance. PT says I can get outdoors in January. That's okay, though. Snow will be coming our way. You have an indoor trainer, just use that. And go outside, even though snow coming your way. When they clear the roads and you want to go out so you don't have cabin fever. But don't go out if the roads are unsafe, or if it's just so brutally cold, like below freezing, to where, like I've mentioned, I've been out there on very cold days here. It wasn't much of a good ride. I came back home and shortened it. So don't force yourself to go out if the weather is challenging. Spring will come along soon enough. Do 30 to 45 minute sessions and break it up. If you want to do longer, do one in the morning, one in the evening. The trainer is actually more effective than a lot of rides on the road unless you head out of town. When you're in town, you spend a lot of time coasting, waiting on this person, waiting for the stop sign. Get on the trainer. 30 minutes feels like an hour on the road. So you're not losing anything. Don't feel like you're going to get out there in challenging weather and put on all kinds of stuff. No. I go out because here where we live, the roads are clear all the year. You know, all year we get a few frost days, was rare. But we go out because it's what? 50, it feels like 35. We can wear stuff. But we go out for hours at a time. I'm not going out for 1 hour. If I'm going to put on all that crap, I want 3 hours at least. So if you're not able to do 3 hours because it's just really cold, if it's 20 degrees, I'm not going outside. I will be filming the group ride from the studio. All right, let's see. I love my Carbon Scott, but when it's very windy, you get blown everywhere. Carbon Scott. I guess it means the wheels. This is Tush. If you mean the wheels, then that's everybody. Because yeah, from the when it, crosswinds. I mean, we're in a rainstorm with Alan, and he's got zip 800 on the P5. And even though we have Zondas, I had to hold my bars. It was gusty. Yeah, even regular wheels, when it's very windy, you got to hold the bars. That's not the time to be cute. So yeah, it happens. I mean, you know, the weather's got to do its thing. You know, you get out there and you deal with it. Don't worry about that. Mark Saman, being an older rider, my flexibility is slowly improving. Okay. I don't know if your age has to do with anything, Mark. If you're not flexible, you're not flexible. There's a lot of 25-year-olds can't pick up a pencil, you know. So yeah, I think in addition to your riding, though, you want to do some stretching after you ride. I stretch because it helps me recover. I do a lot of calisthenics where I sit on my feet. My feet are behind me, and I sit and I stretch my quadriceps because it feels good after a hard ride. You know, that's the kind of stretching I do. Just very static, easy stuff. Just very relaxing. I'll make a note to make another video. I'd done one a long time ago, a stretching video for us that ride. You want to stretch your hamstrings, sit on the ground, open your leg, lower your torso, and get that stretch. Because the cycling motion is very limited. So stretching is good for us. Let's see. Cardi Gent. After using a power meter for a few months, it confirmed that I am better at hills than flats. How should I train for going fast on the flats? Better at hills than flats. Well, I mean, power is power. Now, smaller riders have a challenge generating power on the flat roads. You know, so I have to back up and answer your question like this. If you're a smaller rider, you're better on the hills because you don't have to generate a lot of power to go up those hills quickly. So that means to go up the hill, you may need to do 3 watts per kilo. And I'm going to translate roughly, and not going to be accurate. Let's say you need to only generate 200 watts to go up the hill ahead of the group on the hill, because you know. But on the flats, to do the same thing, you got to do 400 watts. So because you're a smaller rider who has not trained to generate 400 watts, that's why you're not good on the flats. Because the bigger guys on the flats can generate 400 watts. Whereas on the climb, they probably have to generate 600 watts when you go because you're lighter, watts per kilo. So all things being equal, just focus on being able to generate the same power you do on the hill on the flats. Because the world does not care whether you're going uphill or on the flats. All that matters is what wattage you're generating. So since you already have a power meter, look at what you're generating when you go uphill and try to mirror that on the flats. It's just harder for you because of your body type. So you want to get faster on the flat, generate more watts on the flats. All right, let's see here. Amal Abdul Khalik. I come from BMX, so I'm used to pedaling fast, just not while seated. I just recently got rollers so I can train. Maybe my fit. Yeah, I think your fit is off. I mean, it all begins with fit. There's no reason why. It doesn't matter where you come from. If you're sitting and you can't pedal, it's because you have not trained your body to pedal like that while seated. And then the question is why? Because you're saying you're bouncing. Well, pedaling fast for BMX is different. BMX is more of a trick style kind of thing. That's different discipline. Now, road, you got to maintain. It's not little bursts and then you skip the bike and you do different things. I used to do stuff like that. And that's cool. It's great for your bike handling. So you've come from a good background. So you get on a road bike, you'll be jumping debris like it's nothing. Whereas other riders who didn't have BMX, they got to practice jumping debris that come in their way. But you're going to be used to that. So you brought assets from there. But now you need to get more specialized for that road bike. You do need to fit your road bike. Because the fit on BMX is different. The saddles are low on purpose because you want it out of the way. But the road bike, the saddle needs to be under you because you're going to be seated most of the time. So yes, you do need a fit. Now, I mentioned it earlier, you know, the bike shop that said they tried to tell people about fit, but people think it's an upsell. So yeah, a lot of people neglect fit, and it comes right back to that for their comfort and be able to generate power. All the pros have a good fit, because even the ones that don't have a great fit, By the time they become a top amateur, they're very close. As soon as they're hired, even the pros, when they change teams, the new team checks them. They'll check them. Like when Sagan goes from one team to the other, they checked him when he went from Cannondale to Bora. That's what they do because it's an investment. They don't play. Let's see. What gloves would you recommend for cold winter riding? Riding in New York City without gloves is not fun. Rebel against them. I don't know why you'd ride without gloves. If it's very cold, they've got different gloves. Go to rafa.cc. I use their deep winter gloves. The temperature controls what glove you have. They have different gloves with temperature ranges. That's where you should start. So yeah, you don't want to ride without gloves. Your hands don't have much circulation. And that's the first thing, your hands and feet get real cold. Long fam. Just saying thanks, VH. I saw a professional bike fitter to dial me in after watching your videos. I'm no longer numb down under, if you know what I'm saying, no longer experienced. Well, good. It looks like you got a good fitter. I hope he explained what he was doing because you need to understand it. So if you change anything on your bike, your shoes, your cleats, you need to check, make sure they don't affect your fit. That's the problem with a lot of riders. They get a fit that they go buy a new shoe, different model. They're all different. The stack heights are different. So don't change anything unless you know the impact it's going to have on your fit. Anything in terms of the bars, the 3 contact areas, bars, shoes, cleat system, saddle. Don't change those arbitrarily. Give it a lot of thought. Michael Fernandez from the land down under. Welcome, Michael. Rebel against them. They don't call him Eldred Rafa names for no reason. No. My middle name's not Rafa. They just make really good stuff, and it just makes sense to get them. So I take advantage of the sales. My challenge with some of the other guys, Castelli and them, is a lot of guesswork, especially on their tops, the fit. I've had to do a lot of returns of their stuff, so it's like they need to be a little more consistent. Even their shorts, some of them I bought were too short. Instead of having the inseam you needed, it looked like they made them for midgets. I don't know what they're doing. And you expect it to be long and no way to verify. So I just stick with what works, less headache. And then Rafa, how many manufacturers will say, if you crash, we'll repair the stuff free? A lot of them don't even want you to race with that stuff. So Rafa really, they got the market cornered. The customer service is just, if I've sent stuff to them and they couldn't fix it, then they said, okay, we'll let you buy today's product just like this at 50% off. I couldn't argue with that. I had used that thing for like 3 or 4 years. The shorts were turning brown. The Lycra had faded from black to brown when I sent it back for repair. They gave me a new one at half off. I jumped on it before they changed their minds. So yeah, I've just had good experiences with them. They're really good guys. I'm glad they're giving us that choice. Let's see here. Yeah, Paul was just commenting about the comment I made about Cervelo in Texas. So Nicholas Riz says, I just stopped commuting -C degrees. First day on the trainer, splendid. A lot of time with small adjustments, amazing, so much easier. Yeah. Yeah, so Chris is asking, Chris Roxbury said, can you make your next kit a Rafa Veloharmony kit? It's funny you should ask that. We've thrown that idea around because we learned probably 6 months or so ago that Rafa does offer a custom option. And my only thing is that Rafa is very expensive. I don't know how easy it will be for us to move that, but that is in the back of our mind, Chris. In fact, I've got the design and stuff, JPEGs saved, because I want to keep it close to what we have today. So yes, we can, but resources permitting, that would be the direction to go in. So yeah, we like their stuff that much. I mean, in fact, I don't even look at any other shorts when it comes to cycling shorts. I don't look at anything but the Pro Team stuff. as far as when I'm when looking, but keeping my eye on stuff for sales. And the ones I want, they're not putting them on sale. So I think they know. So anyway, but yes. In response to the Jen from BMX, coming from a 4X DJ background myself, you can use cadence changes to utilize your muscle memory. So Freedom Cycles was responding to the guy from BMX. Yeah, I use cadence because it just makes sense. That's I have a logical mind. If it makes sense, I don't care what it is. If it just makes sense, why not? My wife took me into a nail salon. We paid like $25. They put my feet in hot water. Nothing but women in there. So I was like a little skeptical. This was years ago. I've been turned on. I do that all the time. She put my feet in water. The lady came with all this stuff. She treated my skin. Then she started scrubbing. Long story short, they call it a pedicure. This is stuff I'd never done before. I left that place. My feet felt new. Yada, yada, yada. I'm there twice a month. I look for the least expensive spot. They're opening up all over the place. For $20 or so, $20 to $30, they work on my feet before a ride. Put them in those shoes. Happy. Just makes sense. You know, the women have it all figured out. We're sitting around here. Go in there and just get pampered. Get their nails done, all this stuff. You know, some of the places we go, they want to tease me. Do you want this color or whatever? No. Just do my feet. Because, you know, guys, you know, we work out and we get all these calluses building up on the side of the big toe and the back of the heel, and we don't go get them treated. These women got that cornered, man. So, yeah, if it makes sense, why not? So cadence just works. It makes no sense. You guys saw my buddy Victor carrying that big gear. And then I mentioned that after that, he cramped, you know, and couldn't even ride home. I didn't narrate it in there. It wasn't a factor till after the film ended. But the point is that if something works, why not do it? I know that pulling a big gear saps your speed, strains your back, strains the muscle. You need more time to recover. Because in racing, if you do it, you will be alone. The group will leave you behind. The speed changes too frequently for that. So when you're cruising, it's different. Same thing in your car. If you're in overdrive on the highway, that works. But if you're in the neighborhood navigating and stopping and cornering, you're not in sixth gear or whatever it is. Same thing. So yeah, you're right. You got to pedal the cadence. But then on a bicycle, to be able to turn that cadence, you got to teach your brain and your muscle to work together. And then you need to be comfortable to deal with that, because if you're not comfortable and fitted right and you start to spin, that could be why he's bouncing. Well, guess what? That bouncing is rubbing the follicles in your hair. It's rubbing your skin. Then you got saddle sores. Then if the skin burns when you get in the shower, you know, so yeah, you got to get fitted first to do all of that. It's a connection. Hey, CV Rivera, one of our legends. How you doing, CV? Good to see you out here. He said, hey, Elder, looking at doing crits. Any quick tips on strategy? I'm already training for sprint crits down here. High cadence. You need to be able to do at least 50 plus intervals when you train. A lot of intervals. Because that's what it is. You got to teach your body to go above threshold and recover really well if you're going to do crits, because it's hard. Crits are like a race of attrition. The people who use the gears efficiently will be there at the end. The people who don't will be off the back. There are too many corners, too many accelerations. So you can't be trying to accelerate in a heavy gear that you can't handle. You have to learn to downshift before each corner with the emphasis on before. You need to be in the right gear as you exit the corner and get up to speed, so you're not gapped, so you can stay in that draft. Yes, you have to focus. They're fun, you know, but stay near the front so you don't deal with crashes. They're fun, they're hard, and people get beyond their abilities, and then they make mistakes that cause crashes. So stay in the first third of the group, and you'll be good. It'll take a lot of work, you know. Just go there and go to enjoy and learn and improve each time. So Mark Saman says, older rider, now riding in the drops more as my flexibility improved. Now feeling stresses in the calf and hamstrings. Is this due to the change hip position, or should I let my body adapt? You shouldn't be having any pain in your calves and hamstrings. And I don't see what your age has to do with it. I don't know why people like to call themselves older rider. What is that, a badge of honor? You're a rider. You're just a rider, man. We're all old. Nobody asks how young you are. How old are you? No, it doesn't matter. The biggest thing I think is not flexibility. If your calves and your hamstrings are hurting you, the body's telling you you're either overexerting yourself, meaning I don't know what cadences you use, so I can't, it's an option. If you're using heavy cadence, I told you about Victor cramping over the weekend. Heavy cadences, until you get used to that, yes, you can feel the aching from there. So make sure that your gearing is not too high. Keep your cadence 80 plus when you're riding. See if that gets rid of that ache. And make sure that you're comfortable on the bike, meaning your fit is good. So Nicholas Rizos. Bruce L responds to the comment I made about CV. He says, CV, this is CV Rivera. He says, CV, stay in good position, but not at the front. Now, you see, the reason why I take my time to get deep, I want to use this for an example. You say stay in good position, but not at the front. What's a good position that's not at the front? That's the question on CV's mind with a phrase like that. What is a good position that's not at the front? Yeah, you don't want to be at the front to be pulling the group, but what's a good position? That's why I said the first third, because the groups will vary. Meaning one day you go to a race, there might be 500 people. I'm just being crazy. There might be 50, 20. So you stay in the top third of the number you meet there. It gives him an idea of where he should be instead of just saying stay in a good position. You got to be specific so that people are not wondering and then they come back with another question. So let's see here. Nicholas, love to watch and study different riders after watching your videos, like big power riders like Sagan. Your riding style reminds me of Lance's, also like Alberto. Who's your favorite? All three. Lance, until Lance went on TV, and even after, it hasn't changed. I was one of those that really believed that Lance was not on anything. Naively so, I guess. I actually had ridden with Lance after he won the World Championship. I used to live in Austin. I was fortunate to be there, and we rode with them when they came for a training camp. And I saw the work these guys do. And yeah, and even though they took those things, it didn't mean it didn't work. They worked hard. So I really wanted to believe that he was not doing that because he had me convinced, especially the analogy, you think I would risk my health and all that kind of crap. So I believed it. So I was a little disappointed when he did the thing. But then once, everything started coming out, yeah, I understood that they were in a position where they were forced to make a decision and he had to keep that lie going or whatever. Doesn't change what I know about the level of work they have to do. You can't take that stuff, sit on the couch and win anything. Not going to happen. You got to have something to enhance as well. I don't like that they had to do that. I'm hoping that the organization, because it's a systemic thing, it's a system, not the riders. They need to fix the issues. But anyway, because of them and all those issues, that's why we're able to see now Greg Van Avermaet and these other riders come to the fore, because when everybody was on that stuff, guys like Greg and them who weren't taking it, they weren't able to show what they had all the time. So I think it's kind of good for everything. We're not going to have riders dying in their sleep because it affects everybody differently. Some people take the stuff and they cut corners. They can't pay the top doctors, take too much, then get the blood's too thick, they die at night. So that needs to just go away so we can have a just clean sport. I like all their style. I like Sagan primarily because he just rides. He doesn't play games. It's like if he's feeling good, he just goes and he lets it all hang out. Just a lot of panache. I like that about him. I like Lance in that he was the kind of guy that when there's blood in the water, he doesn't back off. you know, because you think about it, he didn't have to break away on Hautacom and drop all these climbers and then raise all the suspicion. How come he's climbing so well? But that's just his mentality. It's like, you know, I'm going to just let it all hang out. I like that about him. And then Contador, of course, panache. I mean, who can forget Motirola? You know, he had a problem. And then those guys, I think it was a mechanical problem, and he had to climb the Motirola and made up and rode back up to those guys and dropped. What's his name? He was he used to ride with Vincenzo Nibali. He's a younger rider. I forgot his name right now, but anyway, he made up time on the Motirola. He was passing all these other riders, and even got help from Spanish riders that were on other teams, you know, help in terms of just pacing for a little bit. But it was impressive to see at the end of his career, the way he rode that Giro. It was just beautiful to watch, you know. So he's just one of those guys that just let it all hang out. He just didn't play. He didn't get along with Lance that well, but, you know, they're both champions, you know. It's like everybody wanted to win in the race when Lance came back with Astana. But I like their style of riding. Not, you know, the thing is that everybody talk about, spin to win and all of that. Spinning is different for everybody. And I try to say, once you're pedaling, you're spinning. The key is that when you're riding, listen to how your legs and your body feel. Don't lug a gear. You got to be on top of a gear, you know, and the conditions are going to dictate. When we were riding Saturday, all those attacks, when I would get to the front, that wind was blowing, I had to find a gear that wouldn't wear out my legs. That's how come I could go multiple times. So you got to listen to yourself. And that's what these guys do. Sagan will go, then he has to chase. And a lot of times they don't want to work with him because he's a great sprinter. So they don't want to work with him. So what did he start doing? He started breaking away in some of the classic races. So he's adapted his style of riding. He's not seen as just a sprinter anymore. He can ride solo to the end. So he's adapted his form of riding. I like that about that. And we know what Contador can do, a Grand Tour winner multiple times, you know. So yeah, the class is just there, you know. It's hard to hold a good rider down. You know, these guys, when they got good form, they got to show it. Andy Hampson made the comment when he won on Alpe d'Huez many years ago. He said, it's good to have good form and a mountain to show it on. You know, you got good form, you can't hold it back. So yeah, I like watching those boys. Let's see here what we got. Oh, yeah. So Bruce said top third. Yeah, Bruce, you just got to stay near the front. It's not always going to work out like that. Sometimes you got to go to the front a little bit, but then just hit it and roll off. Let the next guy come. When it's hard, there will be gaps. Not everybody will want to come up there. So when you take a short pull, you will find gap to get in there. Oh, yeah. When it's hard at the front, it's hard for everybody. Oh, yeah. You just got to train your body to work that hard for that long. You got to do intensity when you're training. You know, you don't need a lot of endurance for crits. that's baggage. You don't need endurance. You need speed. So you got to change your training. So let's see. Any tips to practice for a long ride? Just ride long and stay and pace yourself for a long ride. Yeah, pace. That's the key. I talked about in the group ride. If you watch that group ride, the last group ride I loaded Saturday, that would be perfect to answer your question. There was a guy who didn't pace himself, told me he almost threw up. If he hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known. I mentioned the pause there. I don't know why he felt like he needed to tell me. I didn't ask him. He was just standing outside the store when we were in the store. We filled our bottle. We came outside. I saw him standing there because he was off the back. He had finally arrived. And I just said, hey, how you doing? Like you do to anybody. He starts to tell me that he almost threw up and this. And we're not tight. So it's not like I didn't expect him to confide in me. But he just started telling me how bad he felt. You could tell by his face that he was disappointed, despondent, confused, whatever word you want to use. And he just proceeded to tell me all this stuff that I didn't expect for him to tell me. So yeah, he didn't pace himself. And he seemed confused. Yeah, I've done it before. I don't know him that well. I don't know when he's done it, but it wasn't in this group. I'll tell you that much. That's why I mentioned in the narration. You may have done it before, but you didn't do it with this group that doesn't slow down. So he needed a break. We didn't give him one. We kept pounding. We got a super chat here. Somebody said, God is good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah. So for long rides, pace yourself. Eat every 30 minutes minimum. Every hour, get food in your system. Drink water. If it's hotter, drink more often. Drink before you're thirsty. Eat before you're hungry. Do not finish the ride hungry. Stay ahead of your needs and then pace yourself. That's the key. That's the best thing you can do. You with a group, the fast, sit in. If it's too fast, let them go, because your goal is to finish the distance. And that's what you talk about a long ride. You didn't talk about preparing for a long ride. So you just got to, if you're going to do a long ride, get your body ready for it. Work on it. So we got about 5 minutes left. Let's see here. It's Chris Roxbury said, Lance once said that the only people that worry about grams is cyclists and drug dealers. In his case, he said he was worried about both. Lance is my boy. Yeah, Lance has always been a very brash guy, meaning he wasn't very diplomatic. Lance wasn't one of the guys that would be popular, because I used to ride with Lance from time to time, and then he's just always been that kind of guy that would rub people the wrong way, because, he just tell you like it is. Whatever's on his mind, just tell you. He didn't care. Lance was pulled over one day. I was out riding in the place called Georgetown, Texas, north of Austin. And he and Steve Bauer was pulled over, standing in the middle of the road where they got the left and right turn lanes. The officers stopped them because they didn't stop in that middle lane to turn. They were riding in that middle lane. And Lance was explaining to him that we were waiting for these cars to come by so we could get out of here. But the way Lance was talking to the guy, it was like, as if to say Lance wanted the guy to arrest him and take him to jail. And we saw them. And so we pulled in there with them, and the guy was like writing something on a piece of paper. He ended up giving Lance a warning, and Lance proceeded to tell the guy, look, this is my job. You're doing your job. I'm doing mine. Why are you bothering me? So Steve Bauer had to come. This is the guy visiting from Canada. It's in Texas, calming the Texan down. Steve Bauer had to tell him, calm down. It's not a big deal. That's Lance. But he was young at the time, like, 20s. It was like 1994 or something, after he won the world championship, and the officer didn't know he's world champion. He could care less, So he got a warning that day. But that's Lance. Lance just always been in your face kind of guy. Robin said the cheapest pedicure I found was $50. $50, dude. You need to come on 2920 of Gosling. There's an HEB there. My wife found one 20% off. It's $20. Robert lives in our area. He knows what I'm talking about. $50, no. Pedicure, no. I don't pay more than $30, $35 regular price. Yeah, you see, Paul just tapped on that. Yeah. Damien DeVries says, you're nice to the people. I like that. Thanks. That's just me, Damien. That's the way I'm made, Now, the thing is that, yeah, I come across nice on the videos and everything, but I don't have a whole lot of friends. I think I've mentioned it before. Not that I like people. Don't get me wrong. You guys can see that. What you see, this is me. But the thing is that everybody's so busy that you have to be very, very particular, because you can't manage a lot of friends. There was a guy here, John Bailey, said, yeah, I agree with you about friends or whatever. You don't need the quantity. You need the quality. And you need to focus on whatever it is that's important to you and do that really well, and just focus, because you got a finite amount of time. Somebody mentioned that your time being a resource. So since you have a finite amount of time, if you love cycling, somebody asked about how I manage it with the little girls that I have. You have to plan. That's the bottom line. Time management. That's it. Even when you're on the ride. In fact, I didn't get a chance to talk to Paul about this. The last ride we did, our elapsed time was maybe 7 minutes more than our riding time. And this was what? Almost 5 hours, close to 6 hours. Our Wednesday ride. We had maybe, let's say, I'm just on the estimate. We had 6 hours elapsed time, and we rode for 540 something. We were within 7. So we only wasted 7 minutes with the stop signs, lights, the pit stop in the woods, all of that. 7 minutes of non-riding time. That's time management on the bike, you know. And that's why I mentioned on Sunday when we try to ride with these guys, we're not going to wait. When we're not filming, we're going to just keep riding. Yeah, that's my alarm. So we're going to wrap it up here, guys. We'll have another session. This is very popular. I see here, Nicholas says, agree, Chris, discussing how the penalized, as especially the most dedicated. Yeah. So, yeah, I want to thank all of you for attending. Paul, I'm glad you could join. Chris, I love the question you sent. It's good opening for the day. And there will be another one next week. I will schedule it. We're going to try to do them on Wednesdays and Fridays. We're going to change the time. Wednesday might be later in the afternoon, but I will try to keep it at this time on Friday so the guys in Australia can attend. So this is working because it's like we do. It's like we're covering so many different topics. It's as if we're doing multiple videos in one session. So we're going to keep doing it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for attending. Paul, Chris, the rest of you super legends. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate that. Till next time, guys.